Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Well, I'm just hoping that you've survived the PETA backlash.
Absolutely survived. I'm happy to take on that backlash.
So for our listeners, basically, Josh, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you went to some place where they were giving PETA's representatives were giving a talk, and as they were talking, you asked them if they believed that all pit bulls should be killed. And as I watched the video, I saw, a runaround from that answer, and you kept at it. So what happened?
Well, yeah.
And you recorded it on your video so that you could play it back, and you posted it on your page.
Right.
And
it was basically a panel about dangerous dogs in Pasadena, and as soon as I saw that, PETA was going to actually be on that panel, a representative from PETA, I knew where that was going because, as many of us know, we know where they stand on these issues. It's not.
Yeah, why don't you tell us specifically what their position is for our listeners?
Well, their position is basically that they support any form of breed-specific legislation. They publicly advocate for any pit bull that comes into the shelter for that pit bull never to be able to be adopted out, which equates to essentially a mass killing of pit bulls. And they prop all that, they hide all that language behind, well, we're not banning the dog. We're going to put a grandfather clause in for dogs in good homes and whatnot. But essentially any pit bull that's in the shelter is automatically killed. They're out advocating for breed-specific legislation in any form. Like in Maryland, for instance, they backed that. They backed the landlord stuff going on in Maryland and how everyone is liable for their dog on a first-time bite. PETA was one of the main backers for that, for example.
Did they ever answer your question? I mean, because it's kind of like what I think is that the people who advocate positions get used to avoiding answers. And so if you ask them a direct question, sure, they go off on the side, and they hope that you just aren't able to be deliberate enough to ask it and ask it and ask it. And did they ever say, yes, that's our position, or they just keep saying no?
No, they never. Sorry, I've had a cold for like the last 2 weeks. They've never. They didn't answer my question while I was there in front of them on the video, as you can clearly see. And then, obviously, when I put the video up and I posted it on my website and it started circulating through Facebook and Twitter, they obviously got word of it, and they responded to me on Twitter with a link to a PDF document that they have on their website in regards to their quote-unquote positions on pit bulls. And right there in the document, it pretty much confirms everything that I said.
Right.
So they send it to me as if it's supposed to rebuke my video, but all it did was confirm what I said. And apparently they just think we're too stupid to read the document, I guess, is what I think.
Well, I think that's true in BSL also. I mean, when you look at what it takes to be an advocate in anything is to read the documents, for God's sakes. And if you have a document and it's really long and really scientific and hard to get through, like the CDC report of the early CDC report that everybody says that pit bulls bite than anyone else. And whenever I see that, I comment on it and say, yeah, but did you read the conclusion and the disclaimer on that report? Right. I mean, if you don't read that, then you're spreading misinformation, and it's the same thing with PETA. I think people are prone not to read the whole thing.
And I was told by somebody else that was apparently there that after the panel wrapped up and the crowd dispersed, the guests stood around and they mingled or whatever, and apparently somebody approached Lisa Lange, who's the woman that I spoke to from the audience, and asked her, basically doubled down on what I asked her and asked her to her face after the cameras were turned off and there wasn't an audience. And she said, yes, that is our stance on pit bulls. Now, I can't confirm or deny whether she said that. I was just told that by one of my readers on my website, that they were actually there, and they confronted her after the event.
If it's in their mission statement or whatever you want to call it, then that's their position, and what they're trying to do is not make it is to not be in a situation where they have to look like they're being they're a pretty extreme organization, and they have a lot of I think they like to have a lot of shock treatment stuff and all that. I'll give them their props in the early days when they exposed a lot of agricultural abuse and stuff like that, but.
For sure.
But I feel now they've sort of gone pretty extreme, and so then I heard I saw I didn't hear it, I saw it on your website that someone was claiming that you edited your video to make it look worse than it actually was. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. That was actually the person. A couple people were actually claiming that on you guys' Facebook page. That I was.
Well, we better delete them then.
No, I mean, I responded to him then, and then I just put that video together because I wasn't the only one with the video camera in the room.
Right.
The panel was being streamed, so I just lined up my video with the stream video and showed them that, what I posted in regards to my confrontation with Lisa wasn't edited at all.
And why would you? Why? I mean, if you're gonna. It's. I guess.
I don't know. Just discredit what I'm saying.
If you could get away with it, you would. But the point is that, I think most people that know are in this area know that PETA has this position, and so it's not a shock to me that she wouldn't answer it. But I mean, it's there to be read. It's not like you have to translate it from another language or So I don't know. It's funny. I think. The bottom line is that we tend to listen more to the source than we do we tend to give more credence to the person who says it rather than the content of what they say.
Right.
So if they can get somebody up there to make it look smooth, and then people will take up their cause. So
what I found out afterwards in regards to Lisa, just kind of researching her after the fact, she's very close to Ingrid Newkirk, who's the president of PETA.
Right.
They actually met, apparently, when they shared a jail cell after they'd been arrested, and she's done a lot of the documentary work and a lot of the video work promoting a lot of their positions. So to assume that she doesn't know her own founder or president's position on pit bulls is completely,
Completely. It's not plausible.
No.
And I actually saw Ingrid Newkirk give a talk. She's a great speaker, but she doesn't take questions. So she says what she wants, and she leaves, and that's it. So I find it interesting that it's sort of a way of controlling your message to not take questions, and if you do take questions. It's like politicians, you give them something that you want them to answer, and they'll say, well, I'd rather talk about this. It's almost exactly like what happened when Colleen Lynn was on the Huffington Post interview thing. And somebody said, do you want all pit bulls killed? And she said, no. And then she said, but what I want to respond to is, and went off on a tangent on something else.
Yeah.
So
I see a lot of similarities between the way that Dogs Bite operates and the way that PETA operates in regards to these issues, in regards to pit bulls, breed-specific legislation, and shelter reform. There's a lot of similarities there, and that's frightening because PETA has a lot of clout, and a lot of people really support them and have no idea that these are their positions. So